Hi, thanks for joining us and welcome to the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Can you believe it? It's October already, and that means frost and winter weather is not that far behind. Today, we're going to give you some ideas about preparing your lawn for winter, and we'll talk about the Dream Team Landscape Workshop and give you some ideas for beautifying your lawn and garden. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South, so stay with us.
This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Goodwin's Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Miss Isabel Rich. She's a new Master Gardener here in Shelby County, so hooray, that's good.
Thank you.
And Mike Dennison is back with us. Thanks for joining us.
Chris.
Okay, now before we get started, all right, we have a question here. I want you to take a look at this mushroom. Miss Diane came up to me at our booth at the Delta Fair and asked about a yellow mushroom that was growing in several of her plants. She wanted to know what it is, how to get rid of it, and if it's damaging her plants. Miss Diane, that is the yellow house plant mushroom, also called the yellow flower pot mushroom. Okay? It's not that bad, but if you have it in your pot, it can allow your soil media not to hydrate. Okay? So if your soil media is not hydrating or if it's not staying wet, then you're gonna have to repot. Okay? Just use a different media and you'll be fine. And the mushrooms actually grow where you have soils that are high, organic soils that are high, and well, they're high in nutrients, of course, and then they're exposed to warm weather. So you get those two together, you're gonna get these mushrooms. But they're not gonna do anything to your plant.
But if you like the mushroom, just have the mushroom, let the mushroom have its own pot, right?
Just pot the mushroom,
There
right?
you are.
And you'll be fine.
There you are.
Because it's a beautiful yellow color, but it's not gonna do anything. It's not gonna harm anything, Miss Diane, so you'll be just fine. All right, so I hope that helps you out, okay? All right, Miss Isabel, the Dream Team Landscape Workshop.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
What we're going to be doing is taking a different approach. We're going to be teaching our audience how to design the landscape themselves.
Okay.
We're going to be focusing on their big backyard.
Okay.
We have 2 people with landscape backgrounds. I'm a landscape architect, and Susie Askew will be one of the other presenters.
Okay.
And we together will be outlining the elements of design, and we'll be teaching them how to design their own backyard.
All right, how does your backyard look?
In need of a lot of help right now.
So it needs some help.
Needs some inspiration.
Okay, now will there be somebody else there?
Yes, Bob Krickelberg is a natural with providing personal landscape designs, and he's going to be telling us how to personalize backyards.
Okay. Now, what are some of the things you'll be talking about specifically?
We'll be approaching it from a standpoint where people may have lost a major tree, and so they don't have shade in their backyard, so they need to do something with their backyard. Or maybe they've moved into a house that has an empty backyard, nothing at all. Or maybe they've got an overgrown backyard and don't know how to tackle it. And we'll be giving them all sorts of tips on what kind of plant reclamation they can be doing, transplanting ideas, and renovation ideas. But we'll be focusing on really the design aspect. Having been through landscape architecture programs, we've spent years looking at how to design, but we're going to do a crash course for our audience. We're actually going to get them drawing, which is going to be exciting.
Neat. Okay. Now tell me this. I need some help in my backyard. Do you need any help with yours as far as the landscape
My
goes?
backyard is a woods, and I'm perfectly happy with it staying that way.
So I can stay in the woods, huh?
Now, my wife would probably differ. She'd probably want me to do some things back there, but I like the woods, you know.
Yeah, woods are good. Okay. So they're going to actually be drawing some of these designs and things like that. So how do you go about doing that, though? Would you give them graphing paper? Or?
Actually, we'll be giving them a plan, and we're going to be giving them special tips about how to actually measure it themselves.
Okay.
And if nothing else, they're going to carry away from our seminar a better understanding as to what a professional would do if they came to design their backyard for them.
Okay.
But they'll learn the whole process and actually start putting pen to paper.
So this is for the beginners. They don't have to be
That's right.
professionals
That's
like
right.
yourself to understand what's going on, and it's going to be relatively simple for them to.
Yeah, but then I think that the people who are relative experts are going to take something away too. So I think we're going to have something for everyone.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. Now, can you tell us when that is?
It's going to be October 27th between 9 and 12.
Okay.
That's at the Memphis Botanic Garden.
Okay. Will there be a fee involved, or?
Yes, for members it's $3. I believe it's $8 for the general public.
Okay. And they're going to be so happy to come away with that good information, right? That you're going to give them.
Yeah, they're going to have quite a packet. We're going to have a lot of the detailed information. We're going to have a slide presentation, of course, for the actual program itself, but we're going to have some very detailed information for them to take home with them.
Okay. What are some tips that you can give us, though, as far as landscape design goes?
Well, if you're going to be designing your own backyard, there are several things that you might not be aware of that you need to be aware of. Whether or not there are any easements on your property, so that you don't introduce something permanent where it doesn't belong. There could be subdivision regulations. Tennessee One Call needs to be contacted if they're going to be doing any major digging. Those sort of tips are what we're going to be providing for our audience.
Okay. And now, would you put those down on the graph paper? Like you have, what, fences, trees, shrubs, and areas? Those are the kind of things that you would put down on the for your plan?
Right. And really what it's going to do is stimulate them to look at a big picture so that they don't end up putting up a major tree that takes forever to mature in the wrong spot. It's going to be really kind of a master planning kind of exercise for them.
Okay. What are some of your favorite plant materials?
Crepe myrtle. Couldn't live without a crepe myrtle.
Okay.
As long as
I like those too.
As long as they're not pruned wrong.
What about Bradford pear?
Heavens no.
Okay, just checking.
No Bradford pear?
No, and I like easy to care native plant materials too. I know the crepe myrtle isn't one of them. I like to treat it as one, but I like native plant materials.
Okay. So will you be talking about plant material at the workshop?
Oh yes, and as a matter of fact, Susie Askew is the director of propagation at Lichterman Nature Center, and so she's going to be bringing a real native bent to the.
Okay, and she does such a good job, though.
Oh yeah.
So, and I've seen Bob Kreckelberg's yard.
It's amazing. I don't know if any of your listeners went to the Through Our Garden Gates last year. It's another Memphis area Master Gardeners program, and his yard was one of the yards that was visited, and it was amazing. So I hope some of your listeners got to participate in that.
Definitely amazing. And you know what, Mr. D? Woods.
Yes.
He had woods. And they did some excellent stuff back there in the woods, so it's pretty good. Now tell me this, how do you get interested in being a landscape architect?
It's interesting. I went to a national meeting a couple of months ago, and that was one of the things that we discussed, and most of us kind of fall into it. We start out in one program and realize we're not really happy behind a desk, we want to get outside more. But people with a strong desire for working with plant materials, working outside, have a real strong science background helps, math background, but it's a real combination of art and science.
Okay. So if you're interested out there you go. All right, and then you too can landscape your own backyard.
And one thing I do want to mention too is that the University of Tennessee has a brand new landscape architecture program. It's accredited. They were just accredited, and I'm real excited about it because it's one of the only programs that I know of in the country that really focuses on the plant material as much as the design. So it's a really incredible program.
Okay, and tell us the date one more time for the Dream Team Landscape Workshop.
October 27th, it's a Saturday between 9 and 12 at the Memphis Botanic Garden.
Okay, so come on out.
Yeah.
All right. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks that might interest you. Here are just a few of them. All right, Mr. D. We see a lot of green lawns year-round these days, and we know those green lawns are fescue lawns. So what do we need to know about planting fescue?
Well, now is the time to plant fescues. Folks always want to plant fescue in the spring, and it doesn't do very well planted in the spring. But now actually is the time between September, mid-September, mid to late October is a good time to plant. And what tall fescue is 5 to 8 pounds per 1,000 square feet of seed. The red fescues, chewings, the hard fescues are probably 3 to 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet is seeding rate. And now is about the only time we use winterizer fertilizers are this time of the year. And with winterizers, we don't recommend using nitrogen. Make sure it's a low nitrogen or no nitrogen, and probably potash is the fertilizer that the element that we're going to be looking for. If you've done a good job of using, fertilizing according to soil test, and you've used slow release fertilizers, you probably don't need a winterizer on the warm season grasses like Bermuda grass and those kind of things. But on the cool season grasses, for sure, you probably need to go with a winterizer.
Okay. And we get more and more calls at the office. People are really into fescue these days. I mean, they want the green grass year round. I have a Bermuda lawn. I want mine to rest because I want to rest.
Well, does it interfere with your existing lawn? How does that work? Do you have to worry about what happens with your main lawn?
Folks that
Is there any
have
competition?
Fescues usually they pretty much have fescues.
throughout.
If they've got a shady lawn, they
that-
got fescues throughout their lawn. Me, I've got fescue, Bermuda grass, and Lespedeza, clover, and weeds. I have greens, so. But I tend to favor the fescue in the shady areas. It tends to be a little bit more shade tolerant. UT has an excellent publication, Lawn Care, Selecting, Establishing, and Maintaining the Fescues, and you may want to go on UT website and get you a copy of this. The thing about fescues, it's been my experience that they've not done as well here in West Tennessee as they do in Middle and East Tennessee. They like the cooler climates, and but I have fescue, and it is there. It's not thriving. It's surviving. It's pretty much what it's doing.
But the thing with the fescue too is you have to overseed.
You need to overseed and
definitely keep it going.
Do that. I certainly don't have a problem with dethatching it or anything like that. It's not that healthy. But the tall fescues, in the pasture situations, seem to do well. The farmers do a good job with tall fescue. Of course, this year, this drought situation definitely hurt the tall fescues out there. So, but you can, if you work with it, you could overseed, and you could also overseed rye. Now it's been my experience that if you overseed a warm season lawn with ryegrass, that ryegrass does tend to injure that warm season grass. It'll stun it. In the springtime, when it's still doing well, the warm season grass is trying to get started, and there's definitely some competition there.
It can definitely outcompete it.
I'd think long and hard before I overseeded a warm season grass like Bermuda grass with a ryegrass.
I agree with you.
I also don't want to mow the yard all winter.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I want mine to rest because I want to rest. That's for sure. All right, now let's talk about our critters. It's getting a little cool outside. So what do you think will happen with all the critters, huh?
Oh, they're going to try to come inside. They will any opening they can find, they will come through. And I'm talking about snakes and mice and the field rats and things like that. When the cool nights, cool conditions, they'll try to come in and practice exclusion when you can. And a mouse can go through a 1/4-inch hardware cloth.
Yikes.
A rat can go through 1/2-inch hardware cloth. The bones in their skulls are actually they can move the bones in their skull, and they can get through hardware cloth. So you've got to have very, very small hardware cloth. Squirrels will come in too, and raccoons can come into your attic. So utilize and they can't go through hardware cloth that small. Their skulls, the bones are solid, and but they, practice exclusion. The University of Tennessee also has an excellent publication on managing nuisance animals and associated damage around the home. You may want to get you one of these publications. It has an excellent ideas on, trapping them. For the mice and the snakes, glue boards work very well if you put them close to the edge of the wall where the animals can't go around them, or use materials to direct them to the, kind of funnel them to the glue board. That works pretty well. But then you've got to deal with
what do you do with the glue board when you catch it?
Right. You can, if you want to release the animals, you can use oil, like soybean oil or Crisco or vegetable oil that will cause that glue to break up, or you can close that glue board and apply a little pressure to them and dispose of the critters if you want to go that route.
That's going to be tough if you have a snake on you, though.
Well, if it's a, it's a good way to get rid of them. The glue boards work really well, and you have evidence of what you've caught.
Yes, they do work. They do.
But the rodenticides, the single feeding and multiple feeding anticoagulant toxins work well. If you want to use live traps, there is a list of almost every critter that can be a problem around your landscape, and the baits, or the type of baits that will attract them if you want to use a live trap, and the size of the live trap, and then some notes about the different critters. So it's a really good publication to have. For example, if you want to catch possums, vegetables, apple slices, sardines, scrap meat, canned dog food, chicken entrails. I don't know where you're going to get chicken.
Where you going to get that at?
Fish and table scraps will attract them, and it goes down to raccoons, skunks, squirrels, coyotes, rats, voles, even crawdads.
How about that?
I would try to catch the crawdads and boil them, is what I would do.
That's probably for our people down in Louisiana.
If you have a problem with nuisance animals, I strongly suggest you get this publication.
Okay, it's a good publication. All right, here's our Q&A session, Ms. Isabel. So if you have something to say, feel free to jump right on in there, all right? Okay, here's our first viewer email. Mr. Eldridge asks, will you please explain how to prune my fruit trees? Peach, plum, pear. Thank you. Here you go, Mr. D.
I can do that. Peach and plum, I recommend pruning the same way, to an open-centered system called the vase, or open-centered system, like an upside-down umbrella. What you do is you under ideal conditions, you will have 3 or 4 scaffold limbs coming out at about 18 to 20 inches from the ground, and then you prune back any limb that grows back toward the center. You take it off, and you continue to have that plant spread out.
Okay.
And that's what we do for peaches, plums, and nectarines also.
Okay.
That allows good air drainage. You're able to apply your fungicides and your insecticides and get good coverage by doing that. You don't want the limbs to grow down to the ground as that tree is growing out. Right. So on the outer edges, you will prune the limbs up a little bit to keep them from growing down, so that you can mow around them and you can work them. And I personally don't want the plants to get any taller than 8 feet. I want to be able to prune and harvest fruit and spray peaches, plums, and nectarines from the ground. I don't want to be on a ladder with those types of trees. Right.
Now, let me ask you this. Is this the time to do that?
No, it's not. No, it's not. It is absolutely not the right time. This is absolutely the worst time to prune those fruits. The best time is in late winter, after their winter chill requirement has been satisfied, and that's usually around the 1st of March, early March, late February, early March. Usually the winter chill requirement is satisfied. And you never want to prune within 48 hours of a hard freeze. So check the weather, check the long-term forecast before you prune, and because the pruning stresses the plant, and a freeze also stresses the plant. So never prune within 48 hours of a hard freeze.
Either before or after?
After is okay, not before, not before. After is okay. But I would suggest you wait a little while after a real hard freeze, because Mother Nature may have done some pruning for you, and you want to wait and see what she killed, and then that way you don't cut a healthy limb and Mother Nature took, leave one that Mother Nature has already killed. So if it's real hard to freeze, you may want to wait till a little bit toward the end of that, maybe toward March 15th before you do any pruning. You can tell what's alive and what's not alive.
Sure. Now, what about the pear? We talked about the peaches, plums,
the pear tree. I treat pears and apples the same way. I suggest you prune those to a central leader or pyramid style. You want one central leader, and a pear tree tries to have 5.
Yeah.
Every limb wants to be the central leader. It's kind of like some of the people I've worked with. But you only have room for one central leader on an apple tree or a pear tree. And under ideal conditions, you would have a scaffold, several limbs coming out from that central leader at about 18 to 20 inches. Have about 18 to 20 inches with nothing on it. And another whorl of 3 or 4, maybe 5 limbs evenly spaced around the trunk. And then another 18 to 20 inches, and then another whorl, and you continue up to as high as you want to go. Now, you're probably going to end up using a ladder with those types of trees, but I still top them at about, 12, 15 feet. And when you keep them topped like that, that's a big enough tree. We recommend on those fruits to head them back to take off about 1/3 of last year's growth, and you can tell by the color of the limbs, and make your cuts above a bud that will produce a limb that's growing in the direction that you want it to go. And if you do that, you'll do pretty good. If you don't do the heading back and the pruning, years like this year where we've had some heavy fruit crops, I've seen trees completely break down because they have fruited very heavily, and if you don't do the pruning, Mother Nature will.
Do it. Right. I've always said that. I have some good information there, Mr. D. I actually have a peach and a pear tree at home, and I definitely try to get it down to the size where I can get in to get the fruit, because I don't want to be up on a ladder.
Right.
Okay. Here's our next question. Miss Sharon, she wants to know, where did the big red wasp come from? I don't remember them when I was a child. What works best to kill them? They are all around my mother's house. Is there any way to keep them away? Thanks for your answer. What do you think about the big red wasp? And they've been here. I've seen them.
Big red wasps. Big red wasps come from other big red wasps. And they've been around as long as I can recall. And they hurt when they sting. Even little yellow wasps hurt. I got stung the other day by a yellow jacket, and it painful, man. And it only got me once. The thing about wasp, they have automatics, like a fire ant. They can sting you more than once. If you get one in your shirt, they can keep stinging you. A honeybee, bless their heart, they hurt, but they only sting you once, and when they sting you, they give their life. They lose their stinger and leave it with you and to go off somewhere and die. But there are some of the pyrethrins do a good job, and that's what I would use. I would keep some wasp and hornet spray around, the kind that will spray, 10 or 20 feet, distance.
Long distance.
Make sure that they have beta-cyfluthrin, the pyrethrin type, as an active ingredient, only 0.05%. So you're not putting a lot of pesticide out there in the environment, but use one of those, and that will help take care of that problem. And that's from the Red Book. And anytime, as always, when you use a pesticide, be sure to read and follow the label directions.
All right, Ms. Sharon, I hope that answers your question. And we have time for one last question. Okay, what is the best kind of manure to use for the garden?
The best kind of manure to use for a garden. Manures add organic matter. They generally are low in nutrients.
Okay.
I wouldn't use fresh manure.
Neither would I.
On a garden in the springtime because of the possibility of E. coli contamination. You and I and every critter out there has E. coli bacteria in their large intestine. And so probably I would want to make sure, it's probably okay in the fall to put manure on your garden. I did it growing up for years and years, but not when you're going to be harvesting greens or anything like that.
Okay.
But there's really not a whole lot of difference. Poultry manure is a little higher in nitrogen than horse manure and cow manure.
Swine
manure. But you're talking about around 1 or less than 1% nitrogen for horse manure and cow manure. Poultry manure gets up close to 2.5 to 3% nitrogen. So you're not talking about, you're not getting a lot of fertilizer value out of it.
Okay. All right, thanks for the information. That's all we have time for today. Be sure to join us next week. Don't forget, send us an email or letter and let us help answer your gardening questions. And if you miss an episode of The Family Plot, you can watch past shows online. Just go to WKNO.org and click on KNO Tonight. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Cooper, and I'll see you next time on The Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.
Production funding for The Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by Good Winds Landscape and Garden Center in Germantown since 1943 and continuing to offer its plants for successful gardening with 7 greenhouses and 3 acres of plants, plus comprehensive landscape services. International Paper Foundation, the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.